My name is David Beeman and I'm chairman of this committee. Members and officers, please raise your hands to indicate that you wish to speak. Please keep your microphone on mute when you're not speaking. And please can I also ask that any questions get brief and to the point. We'll be timing speeches this evening and an alarm will sound when you've been speaking for 4 minutes. Right, let's start. Apologies for absence and substitutes. Kim.
Thank you, Chairman. We have apologies from Councillor Dan Hunt and Councillor Michaela Wicks. No substitutes, Chairman.
Minutes of the last meeting. Committee, can we approve the minutes of the last meeting held on the 14th of December and published on the council's website as being correct? Thank you. Declarations of interest. Any declarations of interest received from members?
None submitted prior to the meeting, Chairman.
Anyone to want to declare at this meeting? No? Okay. Questions from members of the public?
None received, Chairman.
Questions from members?
None received, Chairman.
Any relevant updates to government like guidance or legislation since the last meeting? Do officers want to say anything?
Thank you. No, there's no updates.
The main item of the agenda, well, the sole application for tonight, which is subject to public speaking, and that's WA 2022-01473, Town Corner, Town Road, Hindhead, GU266TP. The erection of 4 dwellings following the demolition of the existing dwelling and outbuildings together with associated works, as amplified by ecology report received on the 12th of July, and highways information received on the 21st of July. And the plans, and as amended by plans received on the 16th of November. And it's Philip to present. Philip.
Thank you, Chair, and good evening, members. So going to the location plan, the application site is located on a plot corner at the junction of Headley Road and Tarn Road. The site is within the developed area of Hindhead and is not within the countryside, AONB or Greenbelt. As such, it's not subject to those constraints. The site comprises a large plot occupied by a detached 2-storey dwelling towards the north of the plot, a detached garage and 2 smaller outbuildings towards the northeast corner and the surrounding garden. The surrounding character is residential with properties of varying sizes, form and appearance in the immediate locality. So turning to the aerial view, you can see the site here. And Headley Road is here and this is Tarn Road. Turning to the site photographs, photograph A, these photographs show the entrance to Tarn Road from Headley Road with the application site on the corner here. Photograph B, these are looking along the southern boundary of the site, east along Headley Road, and shows where the proposed access would be located. C, these photos show the entrance to Tarn Road and west along Headley Road. This is a Google Street View image of the application site showing the existing dwelling here when viewed from the corner of Headley Road and Tarn Road. D, another Google image of the application site when viewed from the corner of Headley Road and Cedars, the adjacent property. F shows the existing access to Draycott, which is here, and existing Tarn Corner. G shows the eastern boundary of the site looking towards the adjacent neighbour at Cedars. And H, these photos are taken from the southwestern corner of the site looking towards the existing dwelling and the site entrance here from Tarn Road. So turning to the proposed site plan, the application proposes a demolition of the existing dwelling, which is shown in blue dashed lines there, and the existing garage, which is here, and the outbuildings here. So, as I say, the application would see the demolition of that dwelling and those outbuildings, and it proposes the erection of 4 detached dwellings, 3 with adjoined garages facing Headley Road here, and 1 facing Tarn Road with a detached garage here. Plots 1 to 3 would be accessed via a proposed access from Headley Road, and plot 4 would be accessed via the existing access from Tarn Road. I've kind of mocked this up myself to show the proposed dwellings in the wider context. So here we'd see plots 1 to 3 would be seen within the context of the existing dwellings which face onto Headley Road, and plot 4 at the rear would be read in the context of the existing dwellings which face onto Tarn Road there. And this slide shows an illustrative street scene. Here we can see the proposed dwellings in a continuation of built form fronting Headley Road. So turning to the elevations in detail, these are the elevations for plot 1, as well as the floor plan, ground first and roof plan. Plot 2 elevations, so that's the middle one along Headley Road, and floor plan and roof plan. Plot 3, the one closest to Cedars. In terms of the floor plan here, so this, as I say, the closest one to the neighbouring occupier at Cedars, and the only first floor windows proposed in the eastern elevation would serve ensuite bathrooms, and a condition is recommended requiring that these windows be obscure glazed to prevent any loss of privacy to the neighbouring occupier. Plot 4, sorry, is the plot to the north of the site, which will be accessed from Tarn Road. And this would have a detached double garage adjacent to Tarn Road. So turning to the main matters of consideration, with regard to design and impact on visual amenity, it's considered that the proposed dwellings to the south would be positioned in a manner such that the built form would reflect a continuation of the build line of the 2 properties to the east on Headley Road, Cedars and March Cottage. The proposed dwellings would be of similar size and scale, which would tie in with the character of the locality. Similarly, the proposed dwelling to the north of the site would be seen in the context of the residential properties along Tarn Road. It's acknowledged that the proposal would result in a net gain of 3 dwellings on the plot over and above the existing situation. However, the plot is of a large size and officers are satisfied that on balance, the development could be delivered on the site without overdevelopment of the plot. And officers are satisfied that the proposed design, scale and height of the dwellings would be in keeping with the locality. In terms of residential amenity, the site is bordered by residential dwellings, including Cedars to the east, Draycott to the north, and Merrick, which is on the other side of Tarn Road to the west. It's acknowledged that the introduction of 4 dwellings on the site would alter the relationship with the site and its neighbouring occupiers. However, as set out in some detail in the officer reports, officers are satisfied that the proposal would not result in material harm. With regard to Cedars, proposed plot 3 would be adjacent to this dwelling. It would be 3 metres from the shared boundary, which would accord with the council's residential extensions SPD, thus avoiding an overbearing presence. Light levels for the ground floor side windows serving habitable rooms at Cedars may be affected, but it's a material consideration that the rear element of Cedars is 4.5 metres off the shared boundary, meaning that there would be a separation distance of 7.5 metres between the dwellings at this point. Officers consider that this would mitigate any potential loss of light. Further, it's acknowledged that light levels to Cedars would already be affected by the existing substantial boundary vegetation. With regard to Draycott, it's acknowledged that the proposal would result in built form being sited closer to the shared boundary to the north. However, there'd be a separation distance of 2 metres to the boundary, and Draycott is set over 18 metres from this boundary. Officers consider that the total separation distance, considering differing land levels and the position of openings, would be sufficient to ensure no material overbearing impact, loss of light or overlooking. In terms of standard of accommodation and amenity space, each dwelling proposed would meet and exceed the nationally described space standards. It's acknowledged that the proposed private amenity spaces would be modest when compared to the existing dwelling. However, officers are satisfied that the size of the amenity areas to be provided would be sufficient. With regard to highways, plots 1 and 3 would be accessed via a proposed new access from Headley Road. Plot 4 would be accessed via the existing access from Tarn Road. Officers are aware of a number of concerns that have been raised by neighbouring occupiers regarding the proposed access and in terms of increased traffic. However, the County Highway Authority, as the council's statutory consultee for highway concerns, is satisfied that with regard to the likely net additional traffic generation, access, parking provision, that the proposal would not result in material impact in terms of safety in the operation of the highway. A number of conditions are recommended. In terms of biodiversity, Shire Wildlife Trusts were consulted on the proposals, and subject to a number of conditions, the proposals considered acceptable. With regard to sustainability, The application sets out that the proposed dwellings would be fitted with the most up-to-date insulation, glazing and air source heat pumps. Electric vehicle charging point condition is recommended, and a number of other measures could be secured, as we are requesting that the applicant submit a scheme of sustainability measures prior to any development. As such, officers are recommending approval of the application subject to conditions 1 to 19 and informatives 1 to 14 and set out in the officer report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Philippa. We have 2 public speakers on this item, and I shall call them forward now. You have 4 minutes each when you start speaking, and the first person is Christopher McHale. Good evening, Christopher. How are you? I have 4 minutes when you start speaking, and there'll be a 30-second timer noise when you come to the near the end. Okay.
Okay, I think I'm on now. Thank you. Evening all. We live in a neighbouring property to the proposed development in Draycott. We'd like to bring to your attention the following concerns ourselves and local residents have about the proposed planning application. Firstly, the development itself is not in keeping with the houses and plots of Tarn Road and other surrounding properties. The area is characterised by detached houses of individual character set in large plots with woodland and green space. The proposed development, by comparison, is cramped and devoid of such and would significantly alter the street scene of Headley Road. This contravenes the local plan part 1. I'm sure you're all aware of the NPPF sets out the importance of protecting residential gardens for inappropriate development. We would argue that this proposed use of the residential garden for such an out-of-keeping development is indeed wholly inappropriate and goes against the aims of such framework. Local residents agree that Tarn Corner could benefit from some level of development, but this plan goes way beyond appropriate development. Secondly, the proposed access to the 3 houses along Headley Road is ill-considered and dangerous. The junction of Tarn Road with Headley Road is notoriously difficult due to the lack of visibility of traffic exiting Greyshaw Village. The addition of a new entrance of the development located so close to this junction and right next to the bus stop and almost directly opposite a carriageway narrowing measures that force traffic into the middle of the road will make entering and exiting Tarn Road even more hazardous for residents in real term. There have been 2 serious car incidents on Headley Road in the last 3 weeks located near these notorious pinch points, and we believe locating the entrance to the development opposite one of these can pretty much result in disaster waiting to happen. Thirdly, Tarn Road is an existing drainage and surface erosion situation that is already of great concern to the residents. The proposed development is likely to reduce the rainfall infiltration capacity of the site and therefore give increased runoff during rainstorms, aggravating an existing issue further. This issue, given the current state of the road surface of Tarn Road, needs much more thorough investigation. And finally, our objection would be more specific to our property in Draycott with plot 4. A dwelling, the height and size of plot 4 is positioned too close to the boundary of our property. At some points, the house looks to be less than the 2 metres from the boundary of the property, as stated by the applicants themselves. This contravenes the guideline given by Waverley Council that at least a 3 metre distance should be maintained between the new building and the boundary. Due to the gradient of Tarn Road, a dwelling of this size built so close to our boundary will have a significant overbearing and overshadowing effect on our gardens and house. The boundary of plot 4 runs alongside the main usable area of our garden, and as stated in the summary from the case officer, the proximity of the house of plot 4 is likely to reduce light levels in the area of our garden. We do not agree that it is reasonable or justified by the fact that we have other areas of garden that we can use. We also have concerns about the effects of substantial building work so close to our hedgerow boundary. Works carried out so close are likely to threaten the long-term survival of these very established trees and plants. So in summary, we're very disheartened to see the recommendation from the case officer as to grant planning permission and feel this is clearly in an aid to help the council with their 5-year housing supply, with no real regard for the impact of the neighbourhood and the residents of this area. As you can see, due to the fact that we are having this meeting, there is a strong local objection to the development, and these objections are based on real concerns for the impact a development of this scale would have on serious existing issues. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. McHale. The second one we do have is Matt Smith, who wishes to speak in support of the application. Matt, you have equally 4 minutes when you start speaking, and at 30 seconds, you'll hear the bell. So please wrap up after that. Thank you very much.
Good evening, members, and Happy New Year. I hope you all had a lovely Christmas. My name is Matt Smith from D&M Planning Limited, an established practice based here in Godalming. I'm the agent speaking on behalf of the applicant. I'd firstly like to take this opportunity to thank officers for their efforts in dealing with this proposal and trust that you all follow their positive recommendation to grant planning permission. As you have heard, the application proposes the demolition of the existing two-storey dwelling and associated outbuildings and the erection of a total of 4 dwellings and associated works. 3 dwellings would front onto Headley Road in a manner consistent with the grain of the development along here, and the 4th, a self-build plot being located to the north fronting Tarn Road. The MPPF at section 11 advises that policies and decisions should promote an effective use of land in meeting the need for homes. Paragraph 120 sets out that decisions should support the development of underutilised land and buildings, especially if this would help to meet identified needs for housing where land supply is constrained. As you have heard, the site for the purposes of SB2 of the local plan is located within the developed area of Hazelmere, which of course is one of the 4 main settlements for which new housing should be focused. Policy H3 of the Hazelmere Neighbourhood Plan supports windfall development, whilst Policy H2 reflects the need for greater densities to meet the housing demands of the area. The council's current housing position is that they can only demonstrate 4.99 housing land supply. Their recent appeals have calculated this at around 4.2 years. As you are no doubt aware, paragraph 11 of the MPPF sets out that in circumstances where a 5-year housing land supply cannot be demonstrated, the tilted balance is applicable. Whilst we note that the local plan part 2 is progressing towards adoption, during its examination, the council stated that it was not intended that this part of the plan would address housing land supply, with that falling on the parent document of the local plan part 1. The local plan part 1 will be 5 years old next month, having been adopted on the 20th of February 2018. The net gain of 3 dwellings within one of the 4 main settlements therefore weighs considerably in favour of the application. As officers have stated tonight and in the office and in the committee report, the proposed development will relate well to both Tarn Road and Headley Road. 3 dwellings to the south of the site would retain the rhythm, spacing and density of the built form to the east along Headley Road. The property to the north would be consistent with the looser grain of development along Tarn Road. The dwellings have also been designed to reflect the local vernacular, incorporating traditional detailing and form. The developer has a successful track record of designing and building out schemes of similarly high quality in the local area, utilising high quality traditional finishes and materials. Each dwelling has been confidently designed to deliver a high standard of both internal and external amenity. As per the committee report, the dwellings exceed the minimum space standards, including storage and room sizes. Further, the external space is of a high quality and gives reference to the emerging policy DM5, which seeks to ensure garden depths of 10 metres that span the full width of the dwelling. The buildings will be constructed in a sustainable manner and would look to include such provisions as air source heat pumps, electric vehicle charging points, cycle storage, and energy efficient fixtures and fittings. As set out in the committee report, the development would not result in harm to the amenity of neighbouring properties and would have an acceptable relationship between the respective built forms. The site is a large plot, more than capable of accommodating the housing without harm to the character of the area or the amenity of neighbours. There has been no objection from Surrey County Council as the Highway Authority, nor from Surrey Wildlife Trust on matters of ecology. Indeed, both have provided comments demonstrating how benefits can be delivered. These benefits would be in the improved crossing and access to the bus stop at Headley Road, biodiversity net gain, and the removal of harmful invasive species. All of these represent benefits to the proposal that further weigh in favour of the tilted balance. Having regard to all of the benefits, including the delivery of a self-build plot, housing uplift, ecology and highways, and the absence of identified harm from the proposal, it is respectfully requested that members follow the officer's recommendation and grant planning permission. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Right, councillors, who wishes to start the debate? And it's Councillor Martin first, and then Councillor you second. Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Chair. It's only a quick question. I can't find on the report how big is it. Is it 0.22 hectares? So it's half an acre.
Philip, do you want to answer that straightforward question? Probably straightforward.
Hi, I don't think I have that number to hand, I'm afraid. But I can find out if I can.
Please,
Beaver away and
because then
measure.
I can realise how many, if 4 houses are going in half an acre.
Yeah, I can have a look now.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Rubini.
Thank you, Chair. 2 things. First of all, I note in the officer's report on page 8 that no water company has made any observation at all. In fact, they all say no comment. That's for presumably waste collection and water supply. We all know at the moment that we are having tremendous problems, particularly in this area, with Thames and their supply of water to houses, and indeed in Hazemere area for taking waste away. So I'm very surprised that there's no comment in here from those statutory agencies, because we rely on them to tell us whether they are going to be able to give enough water or not. So they made a promise a little while ago that they would liaise with planning authorities to actually make sure that they could supply water. So I am surprised they're not making any comment on these applications, and I would like that noted, please. So looking at the actual application itself, I believe that this is overdevelopment. I think 4 is one too many. If 3 had been on that plot, then I would have felt a lot happier. But I do feel that that extra house, making the 4th house, is something that perhaps will make a lot of money, 4 instead of 1. However, I'm not convinced that in that area it's going to fit in. So personally, I'm of the opinion that this is overdevelopment on a site that could contain perhaps 3 houses, but not 4. So I should be voting against this, I think. Thank you.
Councillor Dealing, Councillor Edmonds.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, the external appearance of all these houses seems to me perfectly acceptable. So the big question in my mind is whether this is, as Councillor Rubini's outlined, overdevelopment or not. And in that respect, I thought the plan shown to us by the planning officer, the sort of ordnance survey block plan of what's proposed in the context of the adjoining houses was extremely useful. It seems we have a big site here, clearly, and it seems to me what's proposed sits quite comfortably with the density of development, particularly further to the east of this site. So I don't share. I think any 1 square foot extra, I don't think would be too much here. I think it would be too much here, but I think what's proposed is just about acceptable. As far as another point, as far as density is concerned, is that we have the Hazlemere Local Plan Policy H2. Now, I was absolutely nothing to do with preparing the Hazlemere Local Plan, but it does specify a very high level of density for development sites in the area, which it is what it is. So there is that aspect to be thought about as well. We clearly have the tilted balance engaged, so that's another point. So on balance, I think this is just about acceptable. I think we would have a real struggle, having read through the papers and listened to the planning officer's explanation. I think we'd have a real struggle to try and defend a decision if we were to refuse. And for all those reasons, I'm very content to support the planning officer's recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Edmonds.
Thank you very much, Chair. Taking up the theme of overdevelopment, I've read the 6 pages from the Surrey Highways, and in terms of overdevelopment, I can't see how their conditions can be met on a limited site. I would agree that 3 dwellings would probably be acceptable, but certainly 4 are totally, how can I put it, are overdevelopment. The uncertainty over the infrastructure in terms of water supply might affect the build out. Therefore, we might be in a situation where, having demolished 1 house, we've lost a house or we've lost a dwelling, and the build out of the other dwellings will then be restricted. In terms of the design, I think I got that there were sealed windows. Sealed windows to me doesn't seem like good design. Therefore, for a number of other reasons, I will not be supporting this application. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor James and Councillor Coburn and Councillor Keane. Councillor James.
Thank you, Chairman. I will be supporting the officer's recommendation. It's what I call a brownfield site in a very sustainable area. And, 20 years ago, when all the new policies came, there would have been about 8 houses in here if it was in the middle of Liphook. I think the gentleman who spoke against it, Draycott, said that the houses weren't in keeping with Tarn Road. The 3 houses are in keeping with the Headley Road, and there's only 1 house, a replacement house, in Tarn Road. Okay, it's a little bit nearer the boundary, but I think Draycott is even nearer the boundary to the house beyond it than this house would be with Draycott. In my view, I think the design is appropriate in the area it's in. It delivers 3 extra houses, not 4, it's 3 extra houses in the perfect position. Nobody wants to have houses next door to them, but we don't live in that time. We've got to put houses in the appropriate places. And in my view, I believe it is not overdevelopment. It's 3 houses in a large garden, retaining the 4th one to be rebuilt, although in a slightly different area. But it doesn't affect Tarn Road and Headley Road. I know very well, having been an East Hampshire councillor in exactly the same area. So I know both of them. So I will be supporting the officers. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Councillor Coburn.
Thank you, Chairman. I mean, I can see why Councillor Davidson, sorry he's not here tonight, called this in, because it is very much an on-balance application. And, you know, I've been swithering, listening to people and also reading the report before I came and taking in the comments of East Hants and all sorts of people. Obviously, this really is on balance. We had a recent appeal decision, I think it was also in Hindhead, just for 2 dwellings, and that was turned down on character. You know, basically, although it was overdevelopment, at least that was what some people had alleged, it was the character of the area that in fact swung it in favour of a dismissal. So I can see both sides to this one. In an ideal world, I don't think I'd have put the 4th one in, but we have to judge what's there and whether or not it is so detrimental to the character of the area that it should be refused. And I have to say, at the moment, I really don't know. I really don't know whether this is good use of a garden space or something that is just a step too far and damages the character of the area. So I hope somebody clarifies my thoughts before we get to the vote. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Keane.
Thank you, Chairman. Well, my personal view is that it's 1 too many. I would be very happy with 3. But I think the 4th is 1 too many. My other concern is, as the resident that spoke pointed out, the actual exit from this site is going to be near a bus stop and it's near pinch points. I do use that road quite frequently and I know what a nightmare it can be. It can be quite dangerous when you're coming down there and somebody's coming at you from a pinch point. So if you've got cars coming out there as well and a bus stop, I think there is going to be a concern. So at the moment, I'm not sure that I can support this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Spence and then Councillor Dixon. Councillor Spence.
Thank you, Chairman. This is, of course, my first comment on as a member of this committee. I also happen to be the other ward councillor for the area, so I'm very familiar with Headley Road. For those councillors who may not be so aware of it, it is a long and straight road. It is very busy, and there have been many objections raised to the speed limits on the road through the years by many different residents. As the individual from Draycott mentioned, it also has a history of accidents. I wasn't aware that there had been another serious accident in the last few days. I knew there was one on Boxing Day where a lady was on life-inflicting injuries. So it's a road where traffic does move fast, and that's why they put in those pinch points. And I have a significant concern here with the proposals for the access. The swept past analysis that's referred to in the technical report really does look as if it's very tight. Any delivery vans will be encroaching onto the other side of the road. And while cars tend to reduce speed towards a pinch point, often you find that cars accelerate to get out of the pinch point to avoid the traffic coming forward. So I have concerns about the safety for vehicles from that. I also have a lot of concern about the proposed drop curb that the developers are putting in. That seems to me to be ill thought out, because a crossing where the traffic calming measure is, where the pinch point goes out into the road, would surely make more sense, because the pedestrian would be more visible and drivers more alert as they're looking at the actual pinch point. This is what happens further down the street in the Hampshire part of it. And pedestrians tend to use those pinch points to cross the road. That is not what is being proposed here. They're proposing to put it what looks like meters away from the pinch point. And again, I think that is ill thought out. So I've got lots of concerns about the access on the highway. Picking up Councillor Corburn's point on the balance that we are looking at here. And we have to look at whether the impacts outweigh the benefits and the degree to that they do so. And reading the report, you know, I see that there are concerns over the housing mix, the amenity to Cedars and to Draycott. The officer actually says that Cedars is a material consideration for us. It looks to me the garden spaces are very tight. And then parking is itself for the 3 units facing the road is a shortfall from what is expected. So for all these reasons, I am finding it very difficult to approve this this application, and therefore will be looking to reject it. Thank you.
Councillor Dixon.
Yes, good evening, and apologies to members. I'm allergic to dust, and that's why I'm sneezing. I don't have any other illness, so yeah, I'll bring my Hoover next time. Anyway, just to say, this is an interesting application. I think I tend to look at it that the houses are very much similar to what we're seeing on the east side, down Headley Road, then down Tarn Road. And what's interesting for me about this is that we're always looking to try and find more housing for families and for young professionals. Well, these houses are not going to be affordable. No one can really say that. In the affordable category, they will allow other people to move into this very nice area. And I do think that would be a nice additional mix to Headley Road. With regard to the access, it does seem unfortunate that they've put it opposite a pinch point, and I do feel the overlooking of Draycott, but with the tilted balance and with the deficit of housing in Waverley at the moment, we have seen so many of these applications recently that we've regrettably had to refuse, including one just a couple of months ago where the actual access was on a fast moving downhill S-bend, and the visibility and the danger was was incredibly incredible as well. So I think because this will allow housing for a new population and a slightly younger population, I will be voting in favour. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Right, anybody else wish to speak? Right. Got up for yes.
Thank you. So it's 0.22 hectares, which is just over half an acre. Thank you.
Are you okay with that, Councillor Martin? Okay. Anyone else wish to speak? You. Right. Right. We therefore come to the recommendation that subject to conditions 1 to 19 and promise 1 to 14 permission be granted. Could I ask members who wish to vote in favour, please raise their hands. Those against? Abstain. The result, please, Kimberly.
Thank you, Chairman. That's 8 in favour, 4 against and no abstentions. Therefore, the application is carried.
Thank you very much for the application. It's granted, therefore. Thank you very much. I think that's all we've got on the agenda for tonight. So thank you very much for turning out on a wet and miserable night. Thank you. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.